In this particular video, we are going to look at strategically how you are supposed to answer questions in igcse 2025. So what you are supposed to do, the way you are supposed to approach questions, and what are the key areas that you are supposed to know in order to effectively answer a question like that. So the first area that really showed up was the understanding the concept of vector and scalar quantities. And in this case, you can see now we can be able to remember that vector quantities are those quantities which are described by both size and direction. In that, whenever you try to describe a vector quantity, you must mention the direction, you must mention the size of that object, of that quantity. For instance, we're going to talk about displacement. Displacement is a distance in a particular direction. And also we can talk of acceleration. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity, which also have direction. We can talk of velocity is the rate of change of speed. Yeah, but is a speed in a particular direction. So you are supposed to circle acceleration, you are supposed to circle velocity. And then we have another example of vector quantity is momentum and also other types of forces. Another concept that also showed up is the concept of speed time graphs, and already I mentioned and opined in my prediction that you are supposed to understand the concept of speed time graphs and distance time graph, because in igcse these are concepts that we're very sure they have to show up. Now, one of the area was to identify the highest speed. And for you to identify the highest speed is you to check what on the graph, where is the highest, which area did the what is the highest level of the graph. And then once you identify that, you can be able to draw a line there, dotted line, and then you can be able to read that value, and we can say approximately around 56 meters per second. And also we needed to understand, or you need to know, as far as you are going to sit for the other exams in physics, you need to understand the concept of speed time graph and the different features of a speed time graph. One of the features is the gradient. The gradient of a speed time graph represents the acceleration of the object, and also the area of this speed time graph, the area under the graph, this area under the graph, the one that I'm just showing here, this area here is representing the distance covered or the displacement of that object. So which means that if you are able to find the area of this region that we have here, the area under this particular graph, then if you work it out, you can even decide to subdivide this into different sections, to which you can easily find the areas. We have a rectangle, a triangle, we have a rectangle, and we have a triangle. So which means that if you work out the area of this particular region that is shaded here, it's going to represent the distance covered by this particular object that we are talking about. So whenever you are going to be asked questions in physics, you need to remember that for a speed time graph, we have different features. Feature number one is the gradient of the graph. If the gradient of the graph is obtained, that is an equivalent of the acceleration of that particular object. If you work out the area under the graph, that represents the distance or the displacement of the object. How far the object has traveled is equivalent to the distance, the area under the graph. Now, the students were asked to identify or describe the motion of the object from 0 to 8. From town A, the object started from A and the object were rested at point B. So you are supposed to describe the motion of this particular object that was being described here. So the first thing that we need to realize is that this is a straight line. So a straight line means the object was moving at a constant acceleration. So from 0 to 80 seconds, the object was moving, or the car was moving at a constant acceleration. But this region here, this one that is flat, you realize that this speed is not changing. Speed remains 56 along this period of time. So which means that this object is moving at a constant speed. Now this object is moving at a constant speed, but this is a constant acceleration because there is a gradient. This line has a gradient value, but this one has zero gradient because it's a flat region. It means it's moving at a constant speed. But this region here, you can be able to see the speed of the car is decreasing from 56 to 60 to 0, from 56 to 0. So which means at this region here, this one here, this straight line, it means the object is having a constant deceleration. So which means that from 530 to this particular point, which maybe we can identify and say this is going to be what? This is going to be 580 to 580. The object is moving is decelerating. Or constant deceleration, or this particular object is decelerating. So that is what you are supposed to understand as far as this region is or this speed time graph is concerned. So also we can talk about another question that really showed up is distance between A and B. So A is the starting point, B is the ending point. Then how are you supposed to show the examiner that you understand how to be able to calculate the distance traveled by this object between point A and B? So we have said that distance traveled is equals to the area under the graph. So if you are asked about distance traveled, you shall be talking about the area under the graph. And in the way you can be able to do it, you're going to subdivide it to shapes that you can be able to find the areas. And for instance, this one here is a triangle. So you can say this is the triangle, and the area of a triangle is a half base times height, which is a half times 80, and the height is 56. Then we shall add also, this is a rectangle, but the mistake that most of the candidates made is not realizing that you need to find the distance from this end to the other end for you to work out the length of this. You are not going to use 530. You are going to subtract 530 minus 80 so that you know the distance between here. That's the mistake that most of the candidates do during exams, and that is where most of the students lost math. So we are supposed to find the difference between 530 minus 80. That is going to give us the length. So this is going to be 450 times the width, which is 56 still, and then we shall say plus the shape that we are having at this particular point also is a triangle, but we have to find the base. The base is from 530 to 580, so that is going to be around 50. So it will be a half times 50, which is the base, times height, which is 56. So we are to work out now the individual areas, then we add those areas together. So this is going to be 40 times 56, and that is going to be 2240, plus this is going to be 450 times 56, which is going to be 25200, plus 0.5 times 50 times 56, and that is going to be 1400. Then now we are supposed to add all this so that we can be able to obtain what could be the total distance traveled. So plus 2240 plus 25200, and if we work it out, we're gonna get this equivalent to 28,840. So you had to ensure you are not going to write the units as meters, or you are not going to write units as meter square or what, because we have already said the area is representing distance. So which means that your answer should be what? Your answer should be in meters. Yeah, so basically that is exactly what you're supposed to do in that kind of scenario. On the different day, then we are told that the train is going to take 650 between stage. Suggests one change of motion of the train that leads to the longer time. So what will cause the motion of an object to take longer time? So that's an aspect of the train traveled at a lower speed. Yeah, traveled at a lower higher speed. So basically that's what you needed to have mentioned in that case. So we shall have more tutorials and more talks on the same. If you're new to Proplan YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'm going to do more tutorials, you'll be notified. See you in the next tutorial.